Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, my dear friends. Here is Geraldo Lemos Neto. I'm here with Marco Gandra from Portal Saber Espiritismo in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Welcome to the program to Know Spiritism number 115. Tonight we are doing the life after death, or life beyond according to Spiritism, the program number 6 of this series. We are transmitting live for Kardec Radio, for Spiritism Dissemination, and DSN, Discover Spiritism Network. Last week, we saw both books from Chico Xavier's psychography. One of them is Letters from a Dead Woman, that was psychographic writing by Chico's mother. And there she is explaining Chico how is life beyond. In this particular piece of this particular chapter, we see that she wrote, there are spirits here who only take care of the making of the costumes for their companions. There is music and instruments more perfect and more adaptable to the harmony than that known on earth. We have select parties and assemblies. We have media, remote vision, through processes that humanity is still very far from understanding. And this is particularly very interesting because this book was psychographic by Chico through Chico Xavier's hands around 1927 and 1930. It was published, the first edition published in 1935. And she was describing at that time, almost 100 years ago, the ways the spirits, the discarnate spirits, live in the plan that she knew, that are most similar now with the life we have nowadays on earth. She talked about media and remote vision. What is remote vision? It's television, it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's, many ways of communication that we see the person online at the same time from all over the world. So at that time, they had that in the plan of living that she was living. And she explained that those things, the remote vision, the media, the parties and assemblies that took place there, she explained that it did through processes that humanity at that time, in the 20s and 30s, here on earth, we were still very far from understanding. But 100 years after that, nowadays, we can perfectly understand what she was talking about, because we have social media, we have internet, high-speed internet, 5G, we have cell phones, and we can talk to anyone, seeing their faces online at the same time, wherever the person is in the face of earth. And we have also all kinds of remote vision, like television, like internet, YouTube, you name it. So this is a very particularly interesting piece of work in Chico's psychography. Mostly, she was anticipating many things that we would only have here on Earth in the late 90s. And also, she's is talking about industry, uh, the the spirits that are occupied there by making costumes for their companions. So she's talking about industry. And also, she talked about music, the existence of music, and the existence of musical instruments that are far away more advanced, more perfect, and more adaptable to the harmony that they understand in that plane, the spiritual plans, and mostly we are far away from understanding. Let's change subject now. Do you think there is unemployment there? And in the book Nosso Lar, the other book that we were studying also last week, Our Home by the Spirit of André Luiz, uh, we can see that he was explained when he arrived in Nosso Lar that the week of 48 hours of work, 8 hours a day, is for everyone, and everyone works in the house of Donna Laura, or Mrs. Laura. So the work is very important, and everyone has occupation. There is no unemployment in Nosso Lar. Let's talk about another issue that André Luiz brought up to us in the book Our Home, Nosso Lar, the issue on property and money. Do you think they have money and they have property? Yes, they do. And André Luiz was explained by Donna Laura, by Mrs. Laura, that their acquisitions are made based on the hours of work, and their money is our bonus, that is in essence the circulating money. So at that time in 1943, we didn't have this on the face of earth, but I think this is most similar to credit cards, uh, most similar to electronic money, and we are in a way that we can understand this in the 20s of the 21st century, that we can be credited by the hours of work that we give in our occupations. So they also explained to Andrea Luiz, the Minister Clarencio, and also Mrs. Laura, that every spiritual family, however, can acquire a home, but no more than one, as long as they have 30,000 hour bonus. So the price of a home there in the spiritual plan of Nosso Lar, and we understand here that Nosso Lar is not a higher plan. Nosso Lar is situated, as I've been telling you, is situated in the most in the uh, edge of umbral plan of living. That is the plan of living right after death here on earth. it's in the umbrella plan, but it's in its edge to a higher plan. So in this plan of our home, every family can acquire a home using for that 30,000 hour bonuses as money. And this is about 11 years of working. So one person can acquire a home after 11 years of working. If the family is composed by two, of course, this goes to a half, like 5.5 years, and so on. If the family is composed by three, they all three can contribute, and after some 3.5 years, they can acquire a home. But just one home for each family, each spiritual family. But there is an interesting observation that Mr. Clarencio, the minister, explained. In general, the buildings are of common equity, which are under control of the governorship. So every construction is under control of the central governorship that are entitled to sell it. Let's see also what it is said about the general occupations and the ones that don't occupy themselves. It is said that every inhabitant of nosso lar, our home, receives supplies of food and clothing with regard to what is strictly necessary. But those who strive in getting the hour bonuses, they manage certain prerogatives in the social community. So if the person is not occupied, it, the, their spirit only receive the necessary supplies of food and clothing, the strictly necessary and no more. No any kind of superfluous things the person does not receive. And only the ones that put effort on their work, getting the hour bonuses, they are, yes, entitled to certain commodities, to certain well-being that constitute certain prerogatives in the social community. So they can manage that. We can see that this sort of organizational society, this sort of social society is based upon the merits. So if the person has merits and its merits, his merits are recognized by the efforts of his works, so that this person can ascend in the society. So it's a social society, but based upon strictly the merits of each and every person that lives there. And then Andrea Luis asked Mrs. Laura, may we, however, spend our bonuses in favor of our friends and families? He was trying to understand that if one that holds a lot of our bonuses can spend it in favor of a third person. And he was explained by Mrs. Laura that we understand here that nothing exists without a price, and to receive something, it is essential to give something. So he was explained also that yes, it is possible for one to give this kind of gift or uh, prerogatives to family and friends, but the ones that will receive a third party our bonuses must be entitled to give something back in terms of work, in terms of commitment, in terms of studies, in terms of responsibility. And this is very interesting. And of course, as we are talking about work, they must also have a way of pleasure, a way that they can leave one day in the week of leisure. Let's see what André Luiz wrote. In other modalities, therefore, life goes on. The only difference is that the discarnated soul is not as compelled to fatigue due to the rarefied elements of matter. So that he is explaining that everyone has a time for leisure and pleasure, but they, because of their plan in a must very different with rarefied elements of matter there in comparison to ours. The spirits there, they don't get too much fatigue for their work, and so that they have more of a health to leave and to share than here we have on earth. So this is very interesting. Well, thank you for listening. I will continue this study next week. Hope you will be with the program To Know Spiritism number 116 next week. Thank you and have you all a very good night. Bye-bye.